Section 2.4 is about explorers. And we're going to talk about explorers from Portugal, Spain, France, and England. So our first explorer we're going to talk about is Amerigo Vespucci. He's an Italian merchant and explorer. He explored the coast of South America and he was hired by Spain to explore. Now, he lists that he reached the South American mainland in 1497. It could have been 1498. There are some discussion on which number is correct. He's going to be the one who's going to coin the term Nuevo Mundo, or New World. He's the first one to say, yes, we have reached a new world. It's another reason why we are called the Americas and not named after Christopher Columbus. Our next individual we're going to talk about is John Cabot. John Cabot in 1497, he's going to reach the North American continent first. And he's going to sail from England. And so the English are going to claim all of North America for themselves because John Cabot reached there first. However, it's going to be nearly 100 years, over 100 years, before another English group comes and settles permanently in North America. So there will be some contention between the English and the Dutch and the French going forward. The next person to talk about, Hernando Cortez. Cortez led to the downfall of Montezuma and the Aztecs. He's from the gentry. In 1506, he did very well in battle, and through a marriage to a wealthy woman, was allowed to gain an estate in Cuba, and he received an administrative position in the New World for what he did. However, what Cortez liked to do is write letters. He was a scribe. His job was to write fancy letters for other people. And so all the higher-ups within the area in Veracruz, where he was located, would bring him letters, information, and say, write this up in a letter to the king or important people. What they didn't know is that Cortez was spattering within these letters of how well Cortez was doing, how things couldn't be done without Cortez, that kind of thing. Then in 1519, the higher-ups within that of the Spanish organization who were in Veracruz were recalled back to Spain to answer for why they haven't been doing their job properly. Now, the Letters of Cortez is a book you can that is out there. It's well over 1,000 pages. He wrote a lot of letters. And so the individuals in charge of Veracruz know what Cortez has been doing. And so they basically tell him to sit tight because they're going to get him when they get back. However, once those individuals leave for Spain, within 2 weeks, he already has 500 men, 500 soldiers, 13 horses, all laden down with weapons, black powder rifles, and he marches into the interior of Mexico. It's going to take him 3 months to get to Tenochtitlan. And Montezuma is going to greet Cortez and all of his men. All of his men are alive. Every tribe that they went to along the route, they are going to make the same deal. They will demonstrate a black powder rifle, and then they will offer to help that tribe against any of their warring neighbors. So, if their neighbors planned on attacking, he said that they would be there and they would protect them. All they had to do is feed them and take care of them for the night and offer them natives to go with them, so that when he does reach Montezuma, he has well over 2,000 natives following him. And he did this to every single tribe he went through. When he reaches Tenochtitlan, he has 0 weapons left. It's rumored that Montezuma, the way he was killed was by soldiers. What had happened is Montezuma, he doesn't really trust Cortez, and he takes a few days before he actually allows Cortez to actually sit and talk with them. But then Cortez tells him that he has a document that says, yes, the King of Spain recognizes that Montezuma is in charge of all the lands and all the tribes. It's in Spanish. Montezuma cannot read it. And he didn't lie. It actually said that. But what he didn't tell Montezuma is that by signing it, Montezuma is handing everything over to Spain. As soon as he did, within a couple days, Montezuma gets stoned to death. It's either by his own people for what he did, or by soldiers who incited the riot. Montezuma dies. Cortez takes the document back to Veracruz, gets on a boat, and takes it directly to Spain and say, look, the leader of Mexico, this whole area, has handed it over to you. And that is how Spain gains control of the greater part of Mexico. Another explorer, Francisco Pizarro, 1531, he's going to cross the Panama, and he's going to travel down the western side of South America. As he does, he is going to basically take out the Incan Empire. So by 1531, the Incans are gone. And it is because of Pizarro and his conquistadors. The next person I want to talk about is Antonio de Montesinos. In 1510, he's going to request funds from the Catholic Church, from the Pope, to go to the New World and build a church for him. The Pope at that time thinks it's a great idea, so he allows him to, offers him money. And this is the church today. And when Montesinos gets here, he doesn't like what the Spaniards are doing to the natives, and so he speaks out for it, and he tries to free slaves themselves. And when nothing changes, he starts to condemn not only Spain, but specific people in his church sermons. Eventually, he'll be arrested, he'll be taken back to Spain, at which time he goes before Ferdinand because he's arrested for treason, for speaking out against the church. Luckily for Montesinos, Montesinos was one of the tutors who taught Ferdinand when he was a child. So Ferdinand doesn't kill him, but he just basically tells him he can never go back to the New World. Luckily enough, there is someone else who's already in the New World who's been listening to Montesinos. And that is Bartolomé de las Casas. In 1502, Las Casas traveled to the Americas, and he was a wealthy landowner. In 1512, he became a priest because of Montesinos' teaching. Gives up everything he has, takes all of his money to help build a church. He accuses Spain of genocide. Sorry about that. And he dedicates his life to saving as many natives as he can. First, he's the first one to say that we are all one people, no matter what our skin color is. We are all one people, no matter what our social class, all of that. We're all one people. Secretly, he gets a printing press moved to the Americas. It's illegal to have one outside of Germany at the time, but he gets one to the New World. He basically gets it shipped piece by piece, and he reassembles it. And he starts to print these pamphlets, which he spreads throughout the Americas. And eventually they get back to Spain and France. So everyone knows what the Spaniards are doing. And the Spaniards cannot find him. The natives just move him from one place to another for the rest of his life. And then right before he dies, he goes back to Spain because he wants to die back in Spain with where his family is from. So that's Las Casas. Ponce de Leon is our next individual. Ponce de Leon is a Spanish explorer, and from 1513 to 1521, he's going to search this area. He's the first governor of Puerto Rico, and he hears about the Fountain of Youth, and so he is going to go in search of the Fountain of Youth. 1521, he's attacked in Florida. He's mortally wounded, and so he never makes it back to Puerto Rico, and he dies. He doesn't find the Fountain of Youth. It does not exist. So that is something that he does try. The next person to talk about is Cabeza de Vaca. Cabeza de Vaca is a ship's clerk. He is an amateur cartographer. In 1528, he was on a ship for the Narvaez expedition, and they're going to set out from Santo Domingo, and they're going to head. They were supposed to go around Cuba and head back to Santo Domingo. But instead, their ship gets blown off course, and they land in that of Florida. Now, his men want him to go back to Cuba, to fix the ship and go back to Cuba, or to go down into the Florida Keys, flag a ship down, and head home. But he doesn't want that. Narvaez says continue on. They also have natives that are pushing them northward. So they are attacked in Tampa Bay. They lose part of their men. They're pushed in further into Appalachia Bay, where they lose more, and they're losing more men every day. So they keep going. They figure if they just skirt the coastline, they'll get down to an area back to Veracruz, where the Spaniards are, and then they can go home. But in November of 1528, they're attacked by natives, and everyone but 4 of them are killed. 2 of them are under the age of 10, and they're parceled out to different native groups. But Cabeza de Vaca and another clerk that is also 15 are taken by a tribe, and they're taught their ways. And so they're absorbed in the tribe as members of the tribe. Now, for quite some time, many years, they're with these group. And as they travel along the Rio Grande in this area, Cabeza de Vaca is mapping everything. He's taking notes of everything that's there. Eventually, they get to Compostela, and they escape from Compostela down into Mexico City. And it is in 1536, 8 years later, that finally he is saved. And once he hands over all of his documentation, they see what he's done, and they immediately put him on a boat, and they take him back to Veracruz, and then he goes back to Spain. While he's on that boat back to Spain, he writes about his life. So we have first-hand knowledge of what happened to him. And it is his writings of the Rio Grande that they use to explore up the Rio Grande into the area which is now New Mexico, where Spaniards get into those areas. Now, the Spanish then go into decline. They are going to lose money. Spain is basically bankrupt. They've spread out too thin. They're not really encouraging colonization by citizens. The church is on a crusade to save as many native lives as they can. There's no gold, there's no silver, no precious gems for them to find. So there isn't much that they can do. This allows France, England, and the Dutch to set up colonies for exploration. So for the French, we have Verrazano in 1524. He's an Italian in service to the French crown. He's going to explore the Carolinas and Newfoundland. In 1528, 4 years later, he gets lost in the Caribbean and nobody sees him again. Jacques Cartier in the 1530s, he's going to claim Canada for France, and he's going to locate what is known as the beginning of the Northwest Passage. That's the St. Lawrence River that leads into the Great Lakes. In the 1600s, we have Samuel Champlain. He's going to lead 27 expeditions into Canada itself. So now, the next group is the Dutch. Henry Hudson is the primary person for the Dutch. In 1566, the Dutch are going strong. They're going to start taking over all those forts that was set up by Portugal and Spain. And so they're going to gain a lot of power. Henry Hudson is going to work for the Dutch India Company, so the trading between India and that of Western Europe. In 1609, he goes in search of the Northwest Passage. On June 22nd, 1611, there will be a mutiny on his ship. They are sick and tired of being away from home, and he just keeps wanting to explore more and more and more, even though the men on his ship only signed up for a 1-year agreement. And so he's going to be set adrift with his son and 7 others, and they're never seen again.